Well, hello everyone. Welcome to What Is This World Come To? I am Jackson Nance. I am joined by my co-host Youthan. Today we are talking to Mac Barfield. Mac is a 21-year-old senior at UNC Charlotte with a marketing major and a minor in American Studies. He is the head manager for the UNC Charlotte men's club basketball team, or the head coach rather of the UNC Charlotte men's club basketball team, and the head manager for the men's basketball team. He has a head coaching record of 66-18, and we are honored to be joined by him today. So, Mac, how are you?
Good, guys. Thanks for having me. I'm really excited. So let's get after it.
Yeah, Youthan, you want to start us off with some questions?
Definitely, yeah. I just kind of want to start off first off with diving right into it. So as you had just mentioned in the intro, Jackson, the young age played a very big part in this. So at just 19 years old, you became the head coach of the Charlotte men's club basketball team, later becoming the manager of the Charlotte men's basketball team. Being so young, how do you achieve so much in managing this with still maintaining your, academics and everything else that you're involved in?
Yeah, man. Look, I have never been a one-trick pony. I mean, in high school, I was a five-sport athlete. I go to college and I was like, well, obviously I wasn't good enough at sports, right? So like, what is another way that I can impact and, not sit in my dorm room all day? And I knew I had a passion for coaching. I wasn't sure what sport, but I knew that basketball was my calling. And I started to dive into it and start to understand the game. And look, I'm a busy person. I really am. But honestly, I would give all the credit to my assistant coaches, all the credit to my players, man. They put up with me, which is difficult to do, I'm sure. But most of all, they keep me grounded. And those are the guys that I'm able to lean back on when I need help. Hey, I can't be here. Can you step in? And all of those things, all compile together. So yeah, all the credit goes to them. Yeah, I get a lot of credit for a lot of this stuff. Sometimes I think it's a little bit unfair. So whenever I get opportunities, I want to push my assistant coaches, I want to push my players because at the end of the day, who in the world would listen to a coach that's 4 years younger than them? Like that takes an enormous amount of being able to swallow their pride and be open and humble. So massive credit to them, massive credit to my assistants. But yeah, I mean, a lot of late nights, fellas, a lot of late nights. But that's the way I like it. That's the way I like it.
Definitely. I mean, and going off of that, it seems like community plays a very big part in what you do on the daily.
Yeah, most definitely, man. I mean, I've said it before in this. I couldn't do this what I do without the guys by my side, the guys and ladies by my side. I couldn't. And that's what I have learned is that you can't be a one man show when it comes to running a program. When it comes to club basketball, a lot of people are like, "Oh, club, that's just for a bunch of rejects, right?" No, it's not the case at all. What it is a bunch of guys who were looked over, a bunch of guys that were passed on, and they're out there and they have something to prove. And I don't call it a club. I don't call it a club team. I call it a program because that's what it is. We have a full media team. I've got 3 assistant coaches. I got 15 players. I have managers, the whole nine. All of those people come together to create, like you said, youth in the community that I need to be able to run the program, have the structure. But at the end of the day, that they all need themselves. It's something that they can come together and have, bigger than themselves. So yeah, you're right. Community is such a big thing for me. That's what makes this stuff roll. It's not me. It's not just one player. It's not the best player. It's everybody involved, from the head coach to the 15th player on the bench.
How many people are in the program?
Oh gosh. So let's see. All right. So I've got 3 assistant coaches, excuse me, 4 assistant coaches. So 3 assistants, one director of player development. I have 2 social media and 1 photographer and 3 managers and then 15 players. And then 2 practice players as well, but I guess they double as managers as well. So yeah, all of those people are on practice on Tuesday and Thursday nights from 8 to 10. And I need every single
Gotcha.
person there. Every single person matters. If you're missing, I feel it. So yeah.
It's like a puzzle. You're missing one piece. It's going to stick out like a sore thumb.
It's exactly right because somebody else has got to step up. And I guarantee you this, you don't want me running the Instagram. So they want to have everybody else there ruin that because you don't want me doing that. So
Yeah.
You're in marketing. You should be great at this.
Hey, just because I'm in marketing doesn't mean I pay too much attention. All right. My mindset's on hoops, and that's really about it when it comes to that stuff. I've got a whole notebook that I just draw plays and write stuff down in class. I'm not worried about the graphs or Facebook or whatever. I love school and I'm successful at it, but at the end of the day, it's hoops, man. That's what I live for. So
Gotcha.
Well, I guess going off what Youthan just asked, for you growing up, being basketball coach today, when you look back, how did you develop your love for the sport of basketball? And did you have any role models in the game, like NBA teams or players you grew up watching? Anything in that regard?
yeah, man, that's a great question. So basketball story's been wild. All right. Cut seventh grade year, cut eighth grade year, cut freshman year, finally made the team my sophomore year. All right. Made the team as the energy guy, if you will. All right. So in other words, we felt too bad we didn't want to cut you. We're going to keep you on the team. All right. And then after that, I was like, you know what, I'm going to embrace this energy role. All right. I'm going to I'm going to be the player coach. And I fell in love with that. I started coaching women's basketball when I was in high school. My sophomore and junior years, I was an assistant for the varsity women's team, and that was awesome. That was my first time sitting on a bench. And if I could say any role models, it's the guy that I work these youth camps with, Rick Roseman. He is the guy that pushed me to keep trying out, pushed me to coach, pushed me to do all these things because he saw something in me that I didn't even see in myself, frankly. I thought I was just a soccer player and that was just all I was. So it was really important for him to see that in me. And I really took that to heart. And, I didn't want to let him down, and then obviously my parents are a big part of that too. My parents didn't let me sit on my tail. It was about getting up and going out and doing things and making an impact. And I guess, teams and coaches, man, Mike Krzyzewski's always been the guy that I look up to, 1,000 game winner at Duke. Just the way he handled himself, the way he was able to balance family and basketball, and be successful as he was is just, it's really inspiring. So I think that would be some people that I would say are big role models for me.
That's awesome. That's really cool to hear, those role models that have shaped you. And same thing for me. I'm a college athlete here at Covenant College in Georgia. I'm a college tennis player. And for me, my parents were huge inspirations for me and big role models, constantly inspiring me to work hard. And my dad was my coach all of high school. And I guess going off of my previous question, what for you has been your favorite memory during your time at UNC Charlotte so far?
Oh man, there's been a ton. There's been a ton. Just being able, I could cite, the little things, just being around the guys. But we've had game winners, we've had national tournament appearances. There's all those things. I would say my best memory. We played Davidson College my freshman year as a manager. When I was I'm still a manager, but my first ever time traveling, and that's when Jackson Threadgill hit the game-winning shot at the buzzer to beat Davidson, which is our rival at Charlotte. And I was like, "This is my first trip ever. This is going to be amazing. Like this is awesome. This is the first time. This has got to be great." Obviously very unrealistic expectations overall. But I would say that was probably my first moment, like, wow, like this is freaking awesome. College basketball and the community around it is just amazing. So I would say probably that is probably one of my best memories for sure.
That's awesome. And then what would you say brought you to UNC Charlotte in the first place? Like, how did you make the decision to go there as a student? And yeah, so how'd you end up there?
Yeah, dude, that's a great question. So my parents are both legacies at UNC Charlotte. And when I was in high school, I told myself I wasn't going there. I wasn't going there. I was going to get away from home. I was going to separate myself from the small town that I grew up in. And
I feel like this is a commonality that I hear on repeat so much.
For sure. For sure. Everyone's like, oh, yeah, I'm going to do this. I'm going to do this. And then you come to the realization, all right, what's best for me? But yeah, so I got the job as a student manager the summer before my freshman year. I got the call, hey, we'd love to have you. And I was just like, at this point, it's a no brainer. And it felt right. I went to NC State on a visit, like college visit. I went to other schools, App State, and I was like, yeah, these just don't feel right. And Charlotte just felt right from the start. And God, it was the best decision I've made, no doubt in my mind. I've never doubted it for a second. It's exactly where I want to be. The opportunities that I was given here, I wouldn't be able to get anywhere else. So UNC Charlotte, it's far enough away where I ain't got to worry about running into mom and dad, but it's close enough where if I need something or want to see them, I can make the trip down. So, it's perfect. It's a perfect spot.
It's amazing how in situations like this, it's like almost like God's controlling your life, leading you into the place where you're gonna, succeed and make the most out of the experience and grow as a person, where you're giving back to the community in this instance and connecting with people, helping others. So, what are your plans going forward, sort of focusing on that and keeping your faith strong and involvement?
Yeah, Youthan, and even to touch on that, man, like when I made the decision to Charlotte, you don't even like at that time in my life, it wasn't, oh, God's leading me this way. I just wasn't thinking that. And it's that he was in control, which is just so crazy to look back on and think about. I could have went anywhere, but it led to Charlotte and all the opportunities. That's nothing but him. So that was a great, I just wanted to touch on that. And then repeat the second part of your question.
How do you like plan to keep your faith and stuff involved going forward and continuing to give back to the community, help others, whether it's people who are freshmen this year at UNC Charlotte, letting them know that they have a friend in you or someone that, be a mentor that they can look up to, go to for advice.
Yeah, dude, that's a great question. And I think what it comes down to is priorities at the end of the day, man. You got God, family, and hoops. That's just kind of how you got to look at it. And as long as you keep God at the center, your faith at the center of everything that you're doing, you're going to feel that presence of ground, if that makes sense. And then obviously, family is a big deal to me. That's like my mom, my parents, my grandparents. I'm just so blessed to have such a very supportive family. But they don't miss a game. They don't miss a club game. They're in the stands every single time, and they're telling me about what could have, should have done after the game. How he played, how they played. It's wonderful that they're so involved in this, and
How far are
they
they
have
from campus?
about an hour. So they make the trek up, which is, so respectable. I thank them for it.
That says a
Uh,
lot.
yeah, definitely. No doubt. They don't miss. They're sitting there. They got their little fan section off in the deep corner. They try to stay away from, everybody else. Because my dad, he likes to hoop and holler. But yeah, man, it's when you say, freshmen, I mean, I always try to bring freshmen on the team. I have always been a guy that's like, I don't know about freshmen. I don't know about freshmen. Are they ready to play? Are they ready to play this and this and this? But it's more about, you're exactly right, building that community, because I was a freshman and I didn't know what was going on. So yes, exactly. Bringing freshmen in, bringing young underclassmen in. And the way that I would do that is I've got a rule with my coaches and everything. It's like, we don't text our staff. You can text your staff logistics, but other than that, we're calling your players, you're calling, because that's how relationships are built. It's not through a text message, it's through a phone call. And it could be simply something is like, what time are you going to be here? I'm going to call and I'm going to find out, because I want to have that connection when I realize that everybody's got such a busy schedule. So I think that's one way, that I want to make people feel as much as included as possible, is like, okay, you're getting a phone call from me, whether it be the manager or the head assistant coach, you're getting a phone call from me. I want everybody to feel just as included. And that's a very big deal to me. And you talk about like my purpose, I love partnering with organizations on campus, whether it be breast cancer awareness, mental health awareness, all of these things. I love partnering with them because, man, this world and this life is a lot bigger than basketball. And I think sometimes a lot of us get caught up in that basketball, basketball, basketball. But there's so much more going on. There's so much more going on in the world. And it's so important that you keep that stuff as well around the game. And by doing that, by partnering with organizations and keeping that stuff fresh. So, like, for example, we have this organization on campus called Morgan's Message, which is about a former lacrosse player at Duke who had very bad sports anxiety and actually ended up killing herself. And what that led to was this massive organization that's like human over athlete. Athletics is second. Athletics is second. And whenever we do these things, I don't just have, all right, let's post it on Instagram. We're going to partner with this org. Nah, the org comes to practice the day before the game, and they give a little seminar about what the deal is. This is what you guys are playing for. This is what this means, and this is how we're going to go about it. So I'm also teaching my players and my staff a lesson, as well as myself, and also bringing awareness with our following that we have. So I think that is one of the ways that I think that I'm trying to make an impact is to keep all of these relevant topics, with basketball in a sense.
Definitely.
So going off what Youthan just asked, how have you created a winning culture for your team? Like, what's the formula to your success?
Yeah, great question. So I be corny here for a second. As soon as I took it, it was we over me, baby. That was the first thing that I coined, we over me. Because at the end of the day, man, you bringing all these guys in and all they want to do is go play pickup basketball and go hoop and go get their own. And that's why they weren't successful before I got there. I brought them in. I got there and I was like, all right, you know what? We're going to establish a culture. And that's what you have to do first. And what the thing is you're never going to win at culture. You're never going to win. It's something you work at every single day. And if you don't put the work in culture, then it's just immediately going to crumble. Culture is so fragile. So that was the first thing I said, we over me. Next thing is, all right, yeah, I could go get the 15 best basketball players at UNC Charlotte, and we could come out here and be talented. But how are we going to gel? So it's not about getting 15 guys that you can win with. It's about 15 guys that you can lose with. Because at the end of the day, if you're able to lose a game and still stay together, that means culture won. Whether you won or lost off the scoreboard, that doesn't matter. Did you play hard, and did culture win? And that's what it all comes down to. So that was one of the first things we did is we had to bring in guys and we had to get rid of guys. We had a lot of tough conversations with guys that were part of this program way before I got here. Hey, it's just not going to work anymore. It's just not going to work anymore. We had to bring in guys that fit what we did culturally. Good people. Not to say these people were bad. It's just they just didn't fit what we wanted to do. And then as we started winning, that allowed us to be like, we know what we're talking about a little bit. All right. Like we got it. Okay. So now it makes people want to be a part of it instead of us being like, hey, come play, come play, come play. Now it's more like, hey, like, are you a good fit? Are we a good fit for you kind of thing? So that's what it all comes down to, man. Culture wins, baby. Culture wins. If you take anything away from this podcast conversation, man, culture wins. No matter what it is, no matter what your culture is, culture always wins.
Yeah,
when you first, sorry, go ahead, Jackson.
You see it on the Indiana Pacers. I mean, the reason they've been successful this season is not because of one or two superstars, but because they all come together as a team. And two of the players have even said the power of friendship. That's been the fuel of their success. So I think that's really cool how you kind of have the same mentality for your team and your culture. That's like really important. So
yeah, exactly, man. I mean, dude, like I do not care at the end of the day what the score on the scoreboard is. I care about our effort and the toughness that we displayed on the court. That's what matters. I can live with a win or a loss, but if I cannot live with the fact that I'm questioning your effort. At the end of the day, if you're not playing hard, you're not playing for each other, that's whenever I have a problem. If we went out there and we left everything out there on the floor, like I coached my tail off, the players played their hearts out, we just lost. Then, all right, fellas, pick it up, see you at practice on Tuesday. You know what I mean? That's just kind of how it is. And you're exactly right. Indiana Pacers, they are a tough team, a very tough team, and they play that way. And you see that, especially in the fourth quarter, when teams are running out of gas, they pick it up. And that's where they've been able to win a lot of games, especially in the New York series. And they won that game one in the Oklahoma cities now just because of that.
Yeah. You think
so whenever you first got to the team with, implementing the new culture and building the community, do you feel like doing that at such a young age, you received a lot of pushback from people around you?
Yeah, definitely. A lot of pushback and a lack of confidence. I look back over there and I'm like, I thought I knew what I was doing, but where I was at, compared to now is completely different. Yeah, a lot of pushback, a lot of like, man, you're taking this way too serious, man. What are you doing? And 100% fair. But the same people that are saying that are the same people that didn't win with us. So that's just kind of how it is, like I am perfectly okay with being corny. I am perfectly okay with people being like, you know what, you do too much. Okay, cool. Say whatever you got to say, man. Resume speaks for itself. All right. Like we win a lot of games and we do it together. And, that's just it. And yeah, pushback was there. But like I mentioned earlier, you got to get rid of the bad apples. That's just how it is. You got to find the guys that fit you and then, just build with those guys.
Definitely. I mean, and obviously, you know what you're doing. You've built this community and cultureship, and you're doing really great things here at UNC Charlotte. Recently, you even won Coach of the Year. So, doing that at such a young age, that really speaks volumes. And I would love to hear you share a little bit with us about what that moment was like, realizing and being notified that you're receiving such a high prestigious award at such a young age.
Yeah, man, it's definitely really cool. I mean, it was really cool to receive something like that. It makes you feel like, all right, everything you're working for is kind of paying off a little bit. So that was really cool. But, I'd also like to mention, our president of the club, Anthony Franchi, won Athlete of the Year, which is just as a cool award, too. And that's just a president of what we've done as a culture. Like people are like, wow, those guys are doing a lot of really good stuff. We should nominate them for these awards. And then after that, it all comes down to the voting. But man, at the end of the day, yeah, it was really cool. It's something that I'm definitely going to hold true no matter how far my coaching career goes. I'll be like, I one of my first coach of the years, that was pretty sick. And then obviously, hearing our head coach for the varsity team, Coach Fern, he mentioned it one day, and that was pretty cool. Being able to hear him say, hey, Meg, congratulations on that. So that was pretty awesome. So I would say that's what it is. But man, like we talked about earlier, Jackson, you brought up the community aspect. Man, that's so big, and I couldn't have done that, and Anthony couldn't have won his award without the team, without the program, without the coaches, without the staff. And that's just a testament to the culture that we've built for sure.
Definitely. And along the way, you're obviously going to receive pushback and challenges. And last week, you and I, whenever we were talking, you were talking about how your strong interests were once in football. Upon receiving an injury, you had to kind of shift your angle there about what you want to do in the academic or athletic realm, rather. How do you recommend to someone to overcome these challenges and find, what God wants you to truly do, even if it, I guess, receiving an injury that puts you in the predicament that you view truly what is meant to be? What do you view there as, most acceptable and moving forward in that moment?
Yeah, dude. I don't talk about it very much, just because it was just it's been past, but dude, yeah, kicking, I was a field goal kicker. I was also a punter, and that was a big thing for me. I thought was my ticket to college. I thought I was going to be a big time kicker and all of that. But you're exactly right. God had different plans. I sustained a lipoma injury. The fall of my senior year, had to sit out a couple games. I actually ended up having surgery that summer, coming down to it where it just all of the higher major school offers or interests that I had just that they went a different direction, which 100% understand. Who wants a beaten up kicker to come? They're fighting for their jobs too. So I get it, right? So I had opportunities to still go play Division II or Division III football, but my mentality was, all right, do I want to focus on the next 4 years of kicking or the next 40 years of my life? And I knew that coaching was something I wanted to do, and I got the opportunity at Charlotte. It was just too hard to pass up. But there was and I don't know what book it was or what verse it was, but I was sitting in church my freshman year, and I heard this, and it's 3 words. It says next best thing, and I love that. I love that phrase because yeah, kicking didn't work out, but the next best thing was coaching. And you're exactly right. I was put in a position where God led me down a path that I didn't want to accept. I didn't want to accept that kicking was over for a long time. But it was like whenever I heard that verse, it was like click, like, all right, this is the path I'm on now. This is where he's leading me to go. And how can I make the best of this next best thing? So that would be what my answer would be to that.
Definitely.
What would you say has been the hardest part for you since your time starting as coach? Like, what's been the most difficult part of the job?
Um, Man, the guys have been so great. So I wouldn't even say the players, man. They have been so bought into our program. I would say the hardest part is just trying to keep up with everything. Putting out this fire, putting out this fire, putting out this fire, making sure that I'm still around for the coaches and when they need something, when the players need something, just being everywhere at once. And I'm making this statement when I'm a club coach. What's it going to be like one day when I'm a college coach? Like how crazy is that going to be, right? But I would say that's been the hardest part. Juggling school has been difficult, but like I've been able to do that because, like I mentioned, I did that in high school too. So that wasn't new to me. But I think just making everybody feel important, making everybody feel like they're part of this community, and just keeping up with everybody and everything that's going on has probably been the most difficult part. But as we grew, I mean, my first year, it was just me and my best friend Cam as assistant coach. That was it. That's all we had. And then as we added more people, it allowed me to take a little bit off a plate here and there. And all I had to do was just check in. But at the end of the day, too, I do interviews, and I go through the process of making sure with the people I'm bringing in fit, and that's also like, I bring in people that I know can handle things. So, and that takes a lot of stress off as well.
Do you make time for yourself to get some rest in there somehow?
Hey man, not much. All right. I'm a big Star Wars fan, so I take my time to watch my Star Wars movies and my TV shows. But other than that, I like lifting and I like walking. Yeah, I'm a big golf guy too. So I try to get active whenever I can and get my time away. But man, from August to May, there's a saying in basketball that says we sleep in May. And from August to May, it's go, go, go. And you just got to lock in and just go along for the ride.
Mac, I'm also
Never seen Star Wars. Jackson always harps on this.
Dude, come
so
on, man.
you and I have to convert him to be a Star Wars fan at some
Gonna
point.
have to,
But
man. You can't beat it, man. There's not many things better. I'm not gonna lie to you, man. It's pretty awesome.
yeah. And this is more of a fun question. We're kind of dealing in hypotheticals here, but if you could manage or coach any NBA team, who would you choose?
Shoot, man. I'd like to think that I could fix the Hornets. That's I'd like to think that I could do that. So that'd be pretty cool. But I've grown up a massive Celtics fan my whole life, back to the days when Jeff Green was leading the team. But I grew up a big Celtics fan. Jason Tatum was my favorite player when he was at Duke and just kind of followed him there. So yeah, I think, going to Boston and being the coach for the Celtics would be pretty awesome, with all the history they have. So I'd probably say that.
Awesome.
Remember us when you're there. We'll do an interview then on the sidelines.
Hey man, you guys are gonna be big time too. All right, I'm gonna see the podcast up on big news channels everywhere. That I'm gonna be like, well, dang, I want to be on it too. So it's gonna be both ways on that.
That's the goal.
That's it. That's
Forget
it.
Hopefully it works out.
That's right. That's right.
Well,
So
Mac,
going
those are all the
forward, what's
questions I have.
next for you?
What's next for me? So I got another year. I'm an undergrad. Still got my senior year coming up. And man, it's the crazy world of basketball. It's just about what opens up at the right time and who do you know, and that's just kind of how it is. I've got a lot of things that I would like to do, but at the end of the day, it just comes down to what's open at the end of the year. I'd like to be a graduate assistant, or a video coordinator, which is very low on the staff. But at the end of the day, man, I want to go somewhere where I'm comfortable. I want to go somewhere where I want to work for the people I want to work for. And at the end of the day, man, I want to win. So, wherever God leads me there or wherever it is, I'm at this moment in June, I'm pretty comfortable saying that. Now, when we get in March and April, I'm gonna start sweating a little bit, but that's just kind of how it's gonna roll. So
It'll all work out for the best. Trust me.
that's it. That's it. It always works out. I always say that it'll always work out one way or another. So
D- Definitely. Jackson, you got any other questions?
Those were all the questions I had. I mean, it's been a pleasure, Mac. Thank you so much for coming on.
wonderful. Well, guys, thank you guys for having me, man. I absolutely love to see young people like myself and you guys just, do everything you can to be successful. I love that. I like to use a term for people like us. We're grinders, man. Like we work hard. We work hard and we have goals that we want to reach. And there ain't nobody that's going to stand in the way of that. So I really appreciate what you guys do, man. You guys, this is awesome. This is awesome that you guys have started something like this. And the fact that you guys reached out to me about being on it is just it makes me feel great. And it shows a lot of respect to you guys. So big time thanks to you guys for letting me do this.
Thank you. Yeah, I'd rather wake up every morning and look at my calendar and not have a full busy day rather than being your typical college kid that ends up partying and drinking all the time. I would rather
It.
contribute to a productive lifestyle.
That's it, man. That's it.
Definitely. But like
Wonderful.
Jackson said, we appreciate your time and thank you for coming on.
Of course, man. Well, you guys have a great night. And like I said, really appreciate it.
Thank you, Mike.
Thank you.